not knowing who she was. Marcus Reed had lived most of his life in quiet corners, working hard, loving stronger, and surviving the best. People don't forget, subscribe my channel. Let's start. Could. At 36, he was a single black father raising his 8-year-old son, Jaden, in a small worn apartment on the west side of the city. Every morning began the same: lunchbox, school uniform, quick breakfast, a tired smile from Marcus that said, "We'll be okay." He wasn't a man who complained. Life had taught him early that it didn't matter. People either listened or they didn't. But he made one silent promise to himself. The day Jaden was born: "I'll never let my boy feel alone in this world." That promise was why Marcus worked 2 jobs: delivery driver in the evenings, warehouse assistant in the mornings. It was why he rarely slept more than 4 hours. And it was why, even after a long double shift, he took the long road home. Because that road helped him breathe. On this particular evening, the sky was bruised purple with the promise of rain. Marcus rubbed his eyes while driving, his shoulders aching as if they carried years of weight. The radio hummed quietly, and he thought of Jaden, who was probably already asleep on the old couch at his sister's house. He missed him, always. As he approached the highway exit, something caught his eye. Hazard lights blinking on the shoulder. A car, sleek and silver, sat tilted slightly, like it had been abandoned by hope. Smoke curled lazily from the hood. Most cars sped past. Marcus slowed. A woman stood beside the vehicle, arms wrapped around herself against the chilly wind. Her long curly hair blew wildly, and her ankles wobbled in heels not meant for broken roads. She looked frustrated, tired, and very alone. Marcus glanced at the time. Nearly 10:30 p.m. It would have been easy to keep driving, but that wasn't who he was. He pulled over. The woman's head snapped toward his car, her eyes cautious at first. In this world, being careful wasn't paranoia. It was survival. Marcus stepped out slowly, hands visible, giving her a reassuring nod. "You okay, ma'am?" he asked. She hesitated, studying him. "My car, it just started smoking. I called roadside assistance, but they said 2 hours." Her voice cracked slightly, betraying stress behind her calm. Marcus offered a small smile. "Mind if I take a look? I know a little. Not much, just enough to get you home safe." Her posture softened. "Please, I'm Naomi." "Marcus," he replied. He opened the hood. Warm air rushed out. The engine hissed like it was angry. Naomi stood beside him, rubbing her arms against the cold. Marcus rolled up his sleeves, feeling the sting of wind on tired muscles, and examined what he could. "Busted radiator hose," he muttered. "It's not a full breakdown, but you definitely can't drive far like this." Naomi sighed heavily, as if the weight of the day was finally too much. "Of course. Perfect timing. You got a long way to go?" Marcus asked. Her eyes flicked away for a moment. "Farther than I want to." There was sadness in that answer, but Marcus didn't pry. "I can patch it temporarily," he said. "Just enough to move the car somewhere safer." She looked at him as though that simple kindness was something rare, like she hadn't seen genuine help in a long time. Marcus grabbed a small toolkit from his trunk, the one he kept just in case things went wrong, which they often did. As he worked, Naomi watched him, noticing how careful he was, how patient, how gentle even with metal and rubber. "You do this a lot?" she asked softly. "Fix broken things?" Marcus chuckled. "Pretty much my whole life." She smiled, really smiled, and it transformed her tired face. "Thank you. I mean it." He shrugged. "We all need somebody sometimes." The wind picked up, stinging cold. Naomi's teeth chattered. Marcus stood and offered his jacket. She shook her head. "You're cold too," she insisted. "It's okay," he said, draping it around her shoulders despite her protest. "My mama raised me better than to let a lady freeze." Her eyes softened, not just in gratitude, but in something unspoken. Respect maybe, relief. When the patch was done, Marcus wiped his hands on an old cloth. "You should be able to drive to the next gas station. There's a mechanic there that won't rob you. Name's Mike. Tell him I sent you." Naomi hesitated before answering. Can I give you a ride home? It's the least I can do." Marcus shook his head. "I'm good. I'll grab a bus." The idea of leaving her to drive alone in a patched-up car at night didn't sit right with her. "No, please, let me thank you properly." Her voice trembled, not from cold this time. Loneliness, exhaustion, something deeper. Marcus studied her face, the tension around her eyes, the way she stood like she was used to staying strong, even when she was breaking inside. He nodded. They drove in silence at first. Naomi kept glancing at him, as though trying to read him. "You have kids?" she asked gently. 1, he said, smiling at the thought. Jaden, 8 years old. Smartest thing I've ever done. Her lips curved. You sound proud. I am. He's the reason I work like crazy. Want to give him more than the world gave me. Something flickered in her eyes. A longing, a memory. You're a good father, Marcus. I can tell. He laughed lightly. Some days I feel like I'm just trying not to fall apart. She exhaled shakily. A lot of us are. They reached his apartment complex, old and dimly lit. Marcus felt a hint of embarrassment. Her car looked like it belonged in a world far from cracked. Sidewalks and peeling paint. This is me, he said quickly, grabbing his backpack. Naomi turned to him fully. Marcus, thank you. I'll never forget this. He shrugged. Just helping someone who needed it. But Naomi's eyes grew emotional, almost pained. People don't help me, not without wanting something. Marcus frowned. I don't want anything. The morning everything changed. Marcus woke before sunrise, as he always did. The apartment was cold, the kind of cold that came from thin walls and a stubborn winter. He stretched slowly, feeling the familiar ache in his back, and shuffled to the kitchen to make breakfast for Jaden. The boy was still asleep, curled on the bed with his favorite blanket wrapped around him like a small fortress. Marcus smiled. That kid was his entire reason for breathing. He fried eggs, packed a simple lunch, and prepared for another day of work. Nothing felt different, except it did. All night he kept thinking about the woman he'd helped. Naomi. There was something fragile about her, something hidden beneath her calm face, something she was carrying alone. But he didn't pry, it wasn't his place. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't just another stranger on the road. By the time he walked Jaden to school, the sun had risen weakly behind the clouds. Jaden held his hand tightly, swinging it as they walked. Daddy? He asked. Yeah, buddy? You look tired. Marcus laughed softly. I'm always tired. Jaden studied him with a seriousness far beyond his age. But you're still the best daddy, even when you're tired. Those words wrapped around Marcus's heart like a warm blanket. He knelt down and hugged him. Go on, have a good day. And listen to your teacher. I will. Jaden shouted as he ran inside. Marcus lingered a moment, watching him go, then turned to catch the bus to work. At the warehouse was loud, chaotic, and always smelled like cardboard and sweat. Marcus clocked in, pulled on his gloves, and started lifting boxes. But halfway through his shift, he noticed something odd. A group of workers stood around the break room television, faces tight. Curiosity tugged at him, so he walked over. On the screen was a news reporter standing outside a mansion. The search continues for Naomi Carter, the missing daughter of multimillionaire real estate mogul, Charles Carter. Marcus froze. The photo on the screen was unmistakable. Naomi. Her hair, her smile. The same tired eyes he'd seen the night before. The reporter continued. Authorities believe she may have fled due to threats against her life, following recent legal disputes involving her family's business empire. Security teams and private investigators are still searching. Marcus stepped back, stunned. She was missing? She was in danger? His heart thumped loudly. He remembered the way she kept glancing around, the way she hugged herself, the way she said, "People don't help me without wanting something." She wasn't talking about normal people. She was talking about her world, one filled with power, pressure, and danger. Hey Marcus, you okay? His coworker asked. Yeah, he lied. Just surprised. He wasn't just surprised. He was shaken. Why didn't she tell him who she was? Why was she alone? Where was she now? He worked the rest. He worked the rest of his shift in a fog, his mind replaying every detail from the night before. Later that evening, Marcus picked up Jaden and walked home, trying to act normal. But even Jaden noticed. Daddy, are you thinking too much? He chuckled softly. Maybe. Back home, he cooked, helped with homework, and tucked Jaden into bed. But once the house was quiet, he sat on the edge of his couch, head in his hands. He had helped a woman who was the center of a statewide search, a woman whose life was in danger, a woman who trusted him enough to drive him home. Why? His thoughts were interrupted by a faint sound. Knocking. Soft, cautious, almost scared. Marcus frowned. At this hour? He walked to the door slowly, heart beating hard. He looked through the peephole. A woman stood there, hood pulled up, arms wrapped tight. His breath caught. Naomi. He opened the door just enough to see her face. Her eyes were red, either from crying or exhaustion. She looked even more fragile than the night before. Naomi, what are you doing here? She swallowed, voice barely a whisper. Can I come in, please? Marcus hesitated only a second before stepping aside. She entered quietly, glancing around the modest apartment. Jaden slept in the next room, unaware of everything. Marcus locked the door and turned to her. "Are you okay?" "No," she said honestly. "I'm not." Her knees nearly buckled. Marcus reached out instinctively, steadying her. She took a shaky breath. "Marcus, I didn't know where else to go." "You could have gone home," he said gently. Her expression cracked. "I can't," she whispered. "Someone wants me gone. Someone close. I don't know who to trust. Not my father's people. Not the police. No one." Marcus felt something heavy settle in his chest. Fear. Real fear. He guided her to the couch. "Sit. Tell me what happened." She sat slowly, hands trembling. "I left home because someone leaked documents that I exposed corruption in my father's company. They think I betrayed them. My own family wants me silent until they fix things. And the people who actually did the corruption," she swallowed hard, "they want me silenced permanently." Marcus stared at her, stunned. "You're saying someone is trying to—" "Yes," she whispered. "And they don't care who gets hurt." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she looked at him, really looked. "You helped me yesterday when you didn't even know my name. You were the first person in months who wasn't using me, judging me, or trying to control me." Her voice broke. "I felt safe with you, Marcus." Marcus rubbed his forehead, tension rising. He wasn't rich, he wasn't powerful. He was a tired single dad trying to survive. And now this woman, this missing millionaire's daughter, was sitting on his couch asking for safety he wasn't sure he could give. He should have called someone. He should have told her to leave. But when he looked into her eyes, terrified, lonely, desperate, his heart refused to let him push her back into danger. He sat beside her. "Naomi," he said softly, "I don't know what I can do, but I won't let anything happen to you." Her breath hitched as tears rolled down her cheeks. And for the first time in a long time, she let herself cry. Marcus gently placed his hand over hers. Neither of them knew it yet, but this moment would change both of their lives forever. The price of kindness, the gift of trust. Marcus sat quietly beside Naomi, feeling her hand tremble under his. She tried to wipe her tears, embarrassed, but he stopped her gently. "You don't have to be strong right now," he said. No one had ever said that to her before. For a moment, Naomi simply breathed, slow, shaky breaths, like she was learning how to exist without fear. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. "I didn't mean to drag you into this." "You didn't drag me," Marcus replied. "You showed up, and I'm glad you did." But deep inside, he knew the truth. This wasn't small. Whatever danger she carried wasn't just hers now. It touched his doorstep. It touched his son's home. And yet, he couldn't turn her away. Not when she trusted him more than people who had known her for years. A plan no one expected. Marcus stood and paced the small living room. Naomi watched him anxiously. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That we need a plan," he answered. "First, you need to rest. You look like you haven't slept in days." "I haven't," she admitted quietly. "I'll take the couch. You take my bed. Jaden won't wake up." "No," Naomi said instantly. "I can't take your bed." "Naomi," Marcus said softly, "you need it more." Her eyes softened, and she nodded. Once she disappeared into the bedroom, Marcus sat alone in the dim living room, hands shaking slightly. He wasn't scared for himself. He had lived through worse, but he was scared for Jaden. He had to protect them both. The night visitor. Hours later, the apartment was silent. Then, bang, bang, bang. Someone knocked hard, not like Naomi's soft plea the night before. This one was loud, demanding, dangerous. Marcus shot up from the couch. He moved quietly to the door and peeked through the peephole. Two men in dark coats stood outside. Not police. Not neighbors. His stomach dropped. One of them spoke through the door, voice cold. "We know she came here. Open the door." Marcus didn't breathe. Naomi appeared behind him, eyes wide with terror. "They found me," she whispered. Marcus shook his head and motioned her back. He whispered, "Go to Jaden's room. Lock the door. Stay quiet." She hesitated, but obeyed. Marcus stepped toward the door and spoke calmly. "I don't know what you're talking about. Leave." "The men didn't buy it." "You have 1 minute before we break the door," the man growled. Marcus's heart pounded. He had no weapon, no police backup, not even a strong lock. But he had courage. And he had something more powerful, truth. Marcus touched the door, steadying himself. "You're not getting her." A long silence followed. Then footsteps. They were leaving, or pretending to leave. Marcus waited, waited. Finally, he exhaled, his entire body trembling with adrenaline. A choice that changes everything. Naomi emerged from Jaden's room, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I should have never come here. I put your son in danger." Marcus walked to her, lifted her chin gently. "Look at me." She did. "You didn't choose danger. It came for you. And now that I know the truth, I'm not letting you face this alone." Her breath broke. "Why? Why are you helping me?" "Because you're a human being," he said. "And someone needs to." Naomi collapsed into his arms, sobbing against his chest, shaking uncontrollably. Marcus held her tight, resting his chin on her hair. "It's okay," he whispered. "I got you." And for the first time since this nightmare began, she believed someone. The call that saved everything. The next morning, Marcus made a decision. He called the only person he trusted more than anyone, his sister, Regina. Regina arrived within 20 minutes, wearing her oversized coat and her "I dare you to lie to me" expression. "Why are there two strange men watching your building?" she demanded the moment she walked in. Marcus hesitated. Then he told her everything. By the end, Regina stared at Naomi, her expression softer than expected. "Baby, you're exhausted," she said gently. Naomi nodded weakly. Regina clapped her hands together. "All right. Here's what we're going to do. I know a friend who works with a legal aid group. He's connected to the real authorities, not the kind who get bought. We'll get you protection. Real protection." Naomi blinked in disbelief. "Why would you help me?" Regina smiled. "Because Marcus trusts you. And my brother has good judgment." When they explained the situation to Regina's friend, things moved fast. Within hours, Naomi was placed under official protective custody. The corrupt individuals in her father's company were exposed. Evidence Naomi had been carrying for weeks was finally handed to the right people. Investigators discovered her life was threatened by someone very close to her family's business. The men who came to Marcus's home were arrested trying to flee the city. For the first time in months, Naomi was safe. But that wasn't the end, not even close. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood outside the courthouse with Jaden holding his hand. Naomi stepped out of the building, surrounded by officers and lawyers. She looked different, stronger, calmer, whole. When her eyes met Marcus's, she ran to him and hugged him with all the gratitude in her heart. Jaden hugged her too. "Are you safe now?" he asked. She knelt and kissed his cheek. "Because of your dad, I am." Marcus smiled softly. "How are things now?" Naomi took a breath. "The people responsible were arrested. My father apologized for the first time in years. And the media finally knows the truth." She looked at him deeply. "But the only thing I care about right now is you and Jaden." His heart stumbled. "Marcus," she whispered, her eyes glistening, "you saved my life. Not just from danger, but from loneliness." He stepped closer. "You saved mine too," he said quietly. "You made me feel like someone who mattered." She reached up and touched his cheek. "I want to start over," she said. "Not as the missing daughter of a millionaire, but as Naomi, the woman who found a man who treated her with respect, not fear." Marcus took her hand gently. "I'd like that," he whispered. The ending they both deserved. Months later, Naomi sat on Marcus's couch with a warm blanket wrapped around her shoulders, while Jaden read a book beside her. The apartment wasn't fancy. It wasn't rich. It wasn't perfect. But it was safe. It was peaceful. It was home. Marcus came out of the kitchen holding 3 cups of hot chocolate. Naomi smiled. "You're spoiling us." Marcus handed her the cup. "Get used to it." She leaned her head on his shoulder, whispering, "I never thought getting stranded on a dark road would lead me to the best part of my life." Marcus kissed the top of her head. "Funny how life works," he whispered. "Sometimes the broken-down car leads you to the right person." Jaden climbed into both their arms, laughing. And in that small, imperfect apartment, 3 broken souls became one healed family.